If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and right alongside here, of course, is my co-host, Legends Tour player and LPGA professional, Cindy Miller. Cindy, welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Yeah, Cindy, we were just talking off air, and I'll explain to everybody, of course, how they can remind everybody how they can tune in here in just a second. But first, let me just apologize. A couple of weeks ago, our guest this morning was going to be coming on, Kim Lewellen. We'll explain a little bit about her here in just a second, but ran into some major issues and had to cancel the show basically right in midstream. And so I want to apologize for those that tuned in for that, and been trying to get the kinks out here the last couple of weeks. And basically, the short version of is the network was doing some major upgrades, and obviously there were some issues that they had, and it caused some problems. So they've sort of reverted back temporarily to their current setup until such time as they're able to resolve the issues. So we should be good from here on out. But again, I just want to apologize for those that tuned in and weren't able to hear the show. We had to cancel it last minute. But let me remind everybody, of course, that we are live, thankfully, this morning, every Tuesday morning, unless otherwise stated, here on blogtalkradio.com. And you can get us by going to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. We'll take you right to the direct link, or just type Women of Golf up in the search key, and that will take you to the main page as well, which you can listen through really any device, any mobile device, or on your computer. If you happen to be at work, you can just sort of eavesdrop into the show as you go along, and the boss won't mind a bit. We start at 9 a.m. On Tuesday mornings until 10 a.m., and Cindy and I are here, again, otherwise unless specified. And Cindy's been busy here the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk to her about that here in just a few minutes. But our special guest coming up a little bit later on in the broadcast here is Kim Lewellen, and she's the University of Virginia's women's golf coach, and a lot of accolades to go along, and a great lady and great asset to the sport. We're going to talk to her a little bit. But obviously this past weekend was Labor Day weekend. Let's first start off with that. Cindy, anything exciting happened for you on the Labor Day weekend?
No.
All right. Well, let's...
we taught. I taught lessons on Friday and Saturday, and took Sunday and Monday off, and did stuff around the house. So it's funny how you take one day off at one place, but you work somewhere else.
Yeah, and I pretty much had a somewhat relaxed weekend, and as I was just mentioning to you off air, obviously had some personal things to deal with, but. It was just kind of nice to not have to really do too much thinking and not have to do too much. But anyways, it was a good weekend, and the weather was pretty decent down here in Florida, and I was grateful to just have some time off. But now, Cindy, I know that not last week, but I think the week before you were going somebody. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Wasn't that the teaching
and National Teaching? Yeah. Club Professional Championship. It was at Reunion Resort in Orlando, Florida, which is a beautiful facility, I might add. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. The temperature was 90.
Yeah, tell us a little bit of some of the highlights. Sorry, go ahead.
Temperature was 96 degrees, and the heat index was 106.
Wow.
So a little warm.
Yeah,
for those from Buffalo. I brought a Pro-Am team down with me, and we had a great time. We did not place, but we had a really good time, and I came in 10th in the senior division, which is okay. I shot 80 the first day, I shot 70 the second day, and I shot 73 the third day.
Wow,
so
that's a 3-day event,
hope.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell Cindy, no, that's fantastic. Listen, that's because I know that here lately, as we've talked on the air before, I know you haven't played as much as you did at one point because you've been really so busy. And for those of you that may be tuning in for the first time, let me just tell you, Cindy Miller is, gosh darn it, probably one of the hardest working women in golf today. She's just got so many things on her plate, and including playing here and there in different events when she can, but she's working hard and diligent with a lot of students out there trying to help grow this game, and just traveling back and forth, as she just mentioned here a couple of weeks ago, down in Orlando, Florida at the Reunion Resort, and just got so much on your plate. So, finishing in 10th spot in the senior division, that's pretty darn good.
No, it's not bad because, again, I don't get to practice or play that much, as you said. The tournament was great. We had some super sponsors. We had the Titleist FootJoy Pro-Am, which they've sponsored for, I think, 30 years. We had Peak Vision Sports. We had Nancy Lopez Golf. We had Orange Whip Trainer. We had Summit Brands, which makes EP Pro and Fairway and Green clothing. We had Scratch Golf Clubs, which I had never heard of. And their wedges look pretty nice. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but there was an LPGA Girls Golf Clinic, which was very nice because one of my Pro-Am partners brought their daughter, Kayla, who happens to be one of my students. So it was really, really nice. It was a great event.
And you've touched on some of the things that are going on in the event, but this is really, too, for a lot of the people in the teaching profession as well. We always hear about the sort of the regular LPGA events and that, but this is really for those club professionals and teaching professionals out there to have an opportunity to get out and play amongst some of their fellow peers, correct?
It is. And the top 8 finishers in the real tournament, which is not the senior division, and the championship division, earn exemptions into the KPMG PGA Championship, which is really the old LPGA Championship. And Lori Rinker shot 65 the last day to win. So it's really pretty cool. I won this event in 2004 when I was 48 years old. At the time, I was the oldest person that had done that. And Lori won $10,000 for her efforts, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, so, and you know what? Yeah, and actually, now that you mention it, I think there was something posted up on social media. I think on Facebook, particularly. I remember seeing about her win this year. So that's fantastic. Congratulations, Lori. It's interesting. That there's so many different components to the tournaments now. Like, it's not, as you said, there. Nancy Lopez. It's not just the players out there playing golf. There was an LPGA clinic. A lot of different components that go on. So there's a little something for everybody. You can certainly watch some great golf, but there's lots of different events within the event, if you will, that go on for everybody to sort of take part in. And that's what
there's a sponsored demo area. Everybody that played in the Pro-Am got a free pair of Peak Vision sunglasses, which was really nice. So it was pretty special.
I'd love to, Cindy, if you get an opportunity. You said that is it Scratch? What was the club
Scratch,
that you said you?
Scratch Golf. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if we can maybe reach out, find out who handles that, and maybe we can. That would be interesting to have something new. It's always interesting to see what's new out in the market and what they're take on it and what their perspective is, and I think it'd be maybe interesting. So let's maybe see if we can together we can try and reach out and get a representative from Scratch Golf on the show here in the weeks coming. One of the other things too,
they were pretty expensive, but they were nice.
Well, you know what? That's fine. I mean, you've got to have a little of everything when you're doing a show like this. You've got to have something a little high end once in a while, and you've got to have something that's sort of in there for every person in between. But also, one other thing I'm going to mention to you as well. I had a great interview here just a couple of weeks ago on my evening show, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with this gentleman, Dr. Bob Winters. Sports psychologist.
I know Bob Winters very well.
Yes, and he knows you very well. And he has extended a request that he would like to come on and talk on our morning show.
I'd love to have him on our show.
Yeah, so I told him that I would speak with you about that and get him on. He's just released here not too long ago another book, one of many. And, of course, for those of you that aren't familiar, Dr. Bob Winters is not only played golf, some great golf along the way, but he's a great sports psychologist, been around the industry for a long time, and he's affiliated with the David Ledbetter Academy down in the Orlando area as well. But we had a great talk here a couple of weeks ago on my evening show, Golf Talk Live, and he said, I want to come on with Cindy Miller. So he said, if you can set that up. So, Cindy, we're gonna let Bob dissect us on the air, if you will, and talk about some great sports psychology. He's just a very nice man, very nice, and really enjoyed our conversation. And so we'll do something to make sure we get him on here in the next few weeks. All right?
Perfect.
And so now last week they also had, didn't they have something at French Lick? Wasn't it last week?
Yeah, so here's what happened. It's funny that we're trying to fix the scheduling conflict. The LPGA National TNCP Championship ended on Wednesday afternoon, which thankfully there was no rain. And I had to qualify the next morning at 8:30 at French Lick, Indiana. And the flight was to leave Orlando on Wednesday at 5:10 p.m., and it was delayed due to thunderstorms, and we didn't get to French Lick until 2:30 in the morning.
Oof. And
had to get up at 6:30, and therefore I was like, there were 10 of us trying for 2 spots. And this, again, I think I've told you, this is the hardest golf course, one of the hardest golf courses I've ever played. So I went out and I shot 77 with a triple on number 5, and I finished 5th. So I did not make it, but I really defeated my demons. And that's what I think our listeners need to be aware of.
Right.
There were 2 par 3s on that golf course, number 8 and number 16, that I have made quadruples on.
Yeah.
Not 16. 8 and 13. How could I forget that? I've made 7s on 2 par 3s on this golf course, and I brought them to their knees. I hit the green and I made par. So really, even though I didn't qualify to play, I feel like I defeated some demons, and I was very grateful that I had the opportunity. And to be honest with you, 77 with a triple wasn't too bad. So I got to come back home and help my students improve their games. But I was very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, and you know something too, Cindy, you raise a really interesting point, and you're right. The listeners need to sort of take heed with this, because a lot of people say, well, you didn't make it in. And they look at sort of from the negative aspect of it. Well, you didn't qualify, or didn't make the cut, what have you. But you were able to overcome something that had presented a challenge to you, and that goes back to what you talked about earlier on in some of the broadcast under the theme of Own Your Game. On the mental side of things is, a lot of times as golfers, whether you're at a professional level like Cindy, or whether you're an amateur out there, we all have sort of our own demons that we wrestle with and challenges that we face out in the golf course. And a lot of times some people are with a little help and some perseverance and hard work are able to overcome that. But a lot of people don't know what to do, and they just fall into the same trap. and no pun intended when I say trap, but and that's something that, Cindy, that you've mentioned here several times, that you've struggled here and there, but you've managed to work some of the kinks out, and that's very impressive considering that you're not playing as much as you did at one time.
You know what? It really is. And every once in a while you have to stop and say, you're not Superwoman. You have some weaknesses, and if you can work on those, it's the self-satisfaction.
Yep.
It's definitely the self-satisfaction. And the person who won the French Lick tournament is Julie Inkster, which is absolutely perfect because Julie is now the Solheim Cup captain, which starts in a week or two in Germany. And how great is that for our tour to get some promotion about the fact that Julie at 55, can win on the Legends Tour, and let's go bring the Solheim Cup back to the U.S. And the fact that Julie still plays on the LPGA Tour. So for me to be able to compete against people who are still playing on the LPGA Tour at 59 years old, I should be pretty grateful and satisfied that I've defeated some demons. So you got to put everything into perspective, which sometimes is hard to do because I'm a little bit of a competitive control freak, but it's like take a chill pill, Cindy.
Yeah. And that's true. Again, we all have things that we wrestle with. And this goes to, this was something that Bob and I, Dr. Bob Winters is referring to, for those of you listening in, we talked about here a few weeks ago was really, a lot of people focus on the physical aspects of their game when they fall into trouble. They think, well, maybe my swing's not up to par, and they get out there and they start tinkering around with things within their golf game, and ultimately what ends up happening is they, more often than not, especially at an amateur level, make it worse. What might have been a really easy fix in one sense, they've now complicated, and now they've got 2 or 3 problems instead of just that one problem. And a lot of times it's their emotional approach to things. They get into a slump or they get into a few bad rounds, and it sort of knocks the wind out of their sails, for lack of better words, and ultimately they start trying to reinvent the wheel. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of, especially amateur golfers, make, and even a few pros here and there, I think, have done it along the way, is they start tinkering too much with their golf game, and it's really not a physical issue. It's an emotional and a mental state that they've allowed themselves to get into. And that's something, too, that I know you mentioned to me recently here, Cindy, that you want to really sort of revisit some of what we talked about earlier on in the season in your game series. And I think that's a great idea. I think we should bring some of that back, and let's take some further approaches to that topic.
Absolutely, and that would fit in perfectly with Dr. Bob, because you really have to be aware of what do I have control of, and the only thing you can control is you. You can't control when anybody else shoots. You can't control what you shoot. It's just what can I control and not give up. Again, the victory at the qualifier was, I bogeyed the first hole, I birdied the second hole, could have birdied the third hole, parred the fourth hole, and I just hit a shot that went to the right on the fifth hole, and I'm in a bunker with no sand, knock it over. I mean, the triple was very easy to make, and I could have given up, but I didn't. Made a couple other birdies, so it's just what can you control and how do you keep pace and not give up, and mentally, emotionally, or physically.
Yeah, well said. I want to go back here since we got still a little bit more time here. I want to go back to something a comment that you made that I found very interesting, and I always try to get my wheels in motion here. And you talked about French Lick here just this past week, how it was, in your opinion, one of the most difficult courses that you've ever played. Why do you think it's difficult? Is it just that the fact that it is an extremely challenging course, or is it because of past experiences that you've had that's made it difficult in your mind, or is it a little of both, do you think?
Well, the PGA Senior Championship was held this year at French Lick, and Colin Montgomery won. And I don't know that, I think one person broke par the first day. So wow. It's a known fact that this Pete Dye course at French Lick is a bear. And the reason it's a bear is there are quadrants on the green, if you will, that if you don't hit your shot in that quadrant, it's almost like a pedestal.
Yeah.
And it falls way off, and then you have to hit up a mountain to a tabletop. And if you don't hit the tabletop, it's off the other side. So now you're playing ping pong back and forth, which is exactly what I did on number 5. You really have to know where to miss it. So strategy is really key, and almost defensive play, and take what you can get. And it's funny because during the LTGA National Club Pro, Alan said to me, Alan caddied for me, my husband who played on tour for 15 years, said, your 80 really could have been 70. You didn't hit that many bad shots.
Right.
And I thought, I don't know if I believe that. Don't blow smoke. But the next day, so I'm working on some stuff in my swing to help me delete my left of left. And I really only hit about 3 shots left of left in 54 holes, which is, again, another success story.
Yeah, that's great.
And what Alan said was, give yourself opportunities. If you give yourself opportunities, they will present themselves. And it's funny because when I shot the 70, it wasn't anything spectacular. It just, I gave myself opportunities. I hit 14 greens.
Yeah.
But I hit it a little closer. And it's funny because Carol Preislinger gave me a little quick brush up on the aim point. Speed reading, the faster.
Right.
Whatever you call it. I forget what they call it. The easier way to read the greens. And that really helped. And I made a couple birdies. I made an eagle on a par 5, which I don't ever hit par 5s in 2. But I did. And it was just, it comes easy. And I think students, I've got a couple of students that I'm thinking of right now that are working on their swings, and they keep reporting, I made a triple here and I made a quad there and I can't break 80 and it's driving me nuts. And so you got to keep working on what you're working on. If you can't hit the shot, you can't score. So you have to learn you have to learn the skill, then you have to learn to use the skill. And again, I always tell my students, I'm your living laboratory because I'm doing what you want to do. And I report back to you and give you, I'm a living laboratory, and I'm very honest with them. And I said, I try too hard. You try too hard. I'm willing to show them and be very transparent in all my lessons that I learn.
That's a really interesting approach to things, and I think it's a very important thing to point out that you do that. More often than not, when a student takes lessons, we don't really hear. Now, obviously, some of the better coaches and teacher professionals will maybe do something similar, but a lot of them really don't talk about some of their struggles. So it's very hard for students to be able to relate. They're very intimidated. They go and they're dealing with a club professional or a teacher professional or a coach, what have you, and they're very intimidated because they're not. It's almost like equating it to an athlete. We see these athletes on TV and even on the Golf Channel and that we're watching some of these golfers. We're not really seeing a lot of the bad shots. Occasionally, we'll see an errant tee shot or we'll see, into a bunker, but it's really nothing. But there's a lot of things that happen out on the golf course that we don't always see because it's edited out. And, what you're doing, Cindy, with your students by being that sort of laboratory rat is very good, and hopefully they're absorbing that feedback that they're getting from you because you're showing them that you're human too, and even though you've got a much greater skill level than many of your students or most of your students or all of your students, you're able to show that you have vulnerabilities and areas of weakness, if you will, that you have to work on. So that gives them something to say, hey, if Cindy can struggle from time to time with these things, and here's how she adapts her game or her abilities to overcome that, then I know I can do it too.
Well, they need to be made aware that everyone struggles. This
Sure.
is not an easy game. And I think it almost relaxes them to know, oh, I'm not the only one. No, we're all doing the same, we're all fighting the same fight. It's how do we overcome the battle?
Yeah.
And everybody's a little different. They need to be able to overcome the battle their own way. But I think you're right. You're right. Our students need to realize that this is not easy.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of times, I think one of the things that I've seen over the years, and again, I've mentioned this before on air, I deal a lot with mainly corporate clients and that, but I hear the same, comments coming from them is a lot of times they have very unrealistic expectations, and they're not always willing, they're getting ready for an upcoming corporate event or what have you, and a lot of times they want this sort of quick fix. And I keep trying to explain to them that there really is no such thing as a quick fix. It doesn't exist. You can certainly get little Band-Aids to help you get through something, but then what happens when next year rolls around and you've done nothing from this event, you've had a little Band-Aid that's helped you, navigate through the tournament, but then you've done nothing for an entire year until next year's event and you're back in the same boat. So, we try to, as teacher professionals, we try to get our students to kind of think for themselves and find ways of tapping into their inner emotions and saying, okay, this is what game I have on the golf course. I've been out to the range here for a little bit this morning and I've hit some shots and maybe, as you said, Cindy, earlier, you're pulling a little bit left. Rather than trying to tinker with all of that out on the golf course, let's find a way that we can incorporate that for the day and make the best of it and find areas, forget about, off the tee, maybe drop back to, instead of hitting your driver if you're struggling with it, go to a different club that you're hitting a little bit more effectively. But that's when you need to ramp up the other areas of the game that you're stronger in and take advantage when those opportunities, and like you said, create opportunities for yourself. And as Alan had pointed out for you, when you create those opportunities, you're going to have more successes.
Exactly. It's your mindset. If we can change the mindset, you can change everything. I think people believe, I got to hit my driver in every hole. Well, no, you really don't. No. I mean, most people can't break 100. So some of my students playing high school golf, and they're not superstars. They said, what if you bogeyed every hole? You just shot 45 in your match. Yeah. That's pretty good. You may not be the number one person, but you're going to win a lot of matches if you're sitting at 3, 4, or 5. So depends on the level that we're talking about.
Right, exactly. And they have to have, they have to set goals and not just, a long-term goal or an overall goal for the match. They need to, have some little hurdles along the way that they're able to overcome, because that helps to build confidence as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with our guest this morning, because she is the women's golf coach at the University of Virginia, and we're going to talk to her here in just a second. I see she's ready. So, Cindy, let me just introduce Kim Lewellen, and we'll bring her on here. And let me just tell you a little, for those tuning into this morning, a little bit about Kim's background, and then we'll bring her on for some discussion. Kim, of course, was born in Salisbury, Maryland, I believe it is, but grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. She won back-to-back North Carolina State Girls Junior Championships, and while attending high school, she earned all-conference honors while competing for the boys' team. She and her husband, John, an Episcopal minister, have 2 sons, Jack and Simon. Back in the 2015-16 season, which marks her 9th year as Kim has directed the women's golf program at Virginia, and during the time she has guided the Cavaliers to the NCAA championships 8 times and led the program to its first ACC championship. Back in the 14 and 15 season, will always be a memorable one for Lewellen. The Cavaliers shot 27 under to win the ACC title by a whopping 26 strokes. That's impressive. University of Virginia placed 3 players on the all-conference team for the first time, and the team advanced to the NCAA championship, finishing 20th at that time. For her efforts, of course, she was named the ACC Coach of the Year for the second time during her career. Lots of great accolades there. So, Cindy, let's bring Kim on the show this morning.
Good morning, Kim.
Hello. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
We're glad to have you, Kim, and let me just be the first to extend an apology for a couple of weeks ago. We had some technical difficulties, and we obviously had to cancel the show very abruptly, and we apologize for that, but we're glad that you were able to reschedule. And Cindy, I'm going to let you, I'm going to sit here quietly and listen to some great conversation here for a few moments. In other words, I'm going to shut up and let the ladies take control here. So, Cindy, I know you've got some questions for Kim, and I'll jump in here and there.
Well, first I have to say that I admire you because I believe your success has come in part due to the fact that you are such an awesome person. You are caring, loving. You just really are a good person. And so I believe that your players, if you will, know that. And I believe you've probably learned to set very good boundaries. Are you laughing, or is that the microphone moving?
It's not me laughing. I'm taking it all in. I love these compliments. Keep going.
Okay. Because I believe that I think you're a good golf mom, and the girls know it. And I think you've probably sought out really good players who are open to your coaching. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. I appreciate the compliments, and for those listening, I was fortunate enough to first meet Cindy on one of our big break episodes, and she's a phenomenal player. And what I learned from Cindy, goodness, I use a lot in my coaching now, just with all of the team bonding and personality tests and these type of things that Cindy, you've helped me a lot, so I really appreciate it, and have enjoyed our time together. But yes, I would say, I definitely look for a certain type of player when I'm recruiting. I look for somebody that's coachable. I look for somebody that enjoys the game and is going to have a fun time getting better. And so I definitely do think that I do recruit a player that probably meshes with what my thoughts are and why I coach. I mean, I coach because I love to be around like-minded women that love the game and want to get better, and that's why I coach. And so those are the type of young ladies I recruit.
Can I ask, we teach a lot of kids up here, Alan and I, and we had a couple of girls a few years ago who wanted us to contact the coaches, and one of the coaches said to me, I'm all set for 2 years from now. And I said, well, wait a minute, I thought you couldn't talk to the player until July after their junior year. How can you already be committed for 2 years from now? Can you answer that question?
I definitely can. And for those junior golfers that are listening, you need to go ahead and make contacts with the schools that you potentially might be interested in. Recruiting is getting so much earlier, not just in golf, but in all sports. So you have, we talk about it in our head coaches meetings. You've got, soccer and lacrosse and football and basketball, and everybody's just recruiting a lot earlier. It makes it difficult for the junior golfers, and it makes it difficult for the coaches. Yes, I'm looking at 2019s right now, Cindy. They're freshmen in high school. That's who my assistant went recruiting yesterday. That's where she went to go watch for 2019s and 18s. So they're recruiting a lot younger. The way that you can go about this now, and I say you need the help of your parents. I mean, it used to be, hey, coaches probably didn't want as much parent involvement, but it's happening so much earlier now. I do think as a freshman, eighth grader, freshman, sophomore, you do need the advice and the help of your parents. So parents, I do think you need to get involved in the fact of locating those schools that, you think that would be a great fit for your child, and then seek out what type of golf program that you have. I mean, we all know about our kids. I mean, my personal kids are 13 and 15 years old. So I know that my 15-year-old enjoys golf and is a weekend golfer and doesn't want to pursue it in any other way. I know that my son is a baseball player that wants to pursue it at a college level. I'm not sure yet if he's only in 8th grade. Can he be, play for Virginia, who we just won the college series, or does he need to maybe potentially looking for a lower D1, D2, D3 school? But I have to go ahead and start thinking about those things now again because recruiting so much earlier. So what I'll do is pinpoint a few interests, a few schools, help him build a resume, help him, making sure that his academics are where they are, and then reaching out to those coaches and go ahead and set an unofficial visit. You will need to contact the coach because the coach cannot contact you. You can always say, please call my swing coach. A coach can call a swing coach, can call a high school coach, and so you want to put that number there, and a coach will get in touch. If they want to contact somebody, they will say to the swing coach, I'm interested in your player, or a high school coach, I'm interested in your player. Can you help organize some type of a conversation so that player knows? So that player then can contact you, can call you at 5 o'clock on the day, you can have a conversation, and then set up an unofficial visit. And then you can take as many unofficial visits as you want. I would suggest go ahead, depending on the level of interest that you have of playing college golf, go ahead and targeting some schools, go ahead emailing the coach, sending some resumes, and then setting up unofficial visits. And as early as it sounds, it can still be an exciting time for a ninth grader. I mean, you have a ninth grader come in, even if it's just for a 2-hour visit, and this coach is showing them some interest and showing them the facilities and showing them the cute uniforms. I mean, that can really,
motivate.
Motivate, yes, and motivate that player to even continue to work hard. So there are some good things that can come from the early recruiting, like I said, a motivation type, but it does make it difficult because they're a lot younger. So I do think rely on the parents a little bit more, at least up to their junior, senior year, and then those would be my suggestions.
Let me ask a question. So if let's say I've got a ninth grader who's amazing, and she contact you and say, you can call Cindy Miller to check on my swing. You can call me. We can set up an unofficial visit, and you can meet this person on your campus when they're ninth grade?
Yes, they can come to my campus anytime. Anytime they want to.
Can you meet with them?
Yes, I can meet with them at any time they're on my campus. If they come to me, or any of my facilities, like our golf course is a mile from campus, but it's still our facility. They can meet at our facility, and they can meet at on grounds or on campus at any time,
can you
at any
watch them
age.
Swing?
I cannot watch them swing on that unofficial visit. That would be me having to then go watch them play a junior event.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Let me ask you, what are you looking for when you watch them play in a junior event? Because we have some kids that show a little color on the golf course, and we try to impart our knowledge that that's not really pretty, and coaches aren't going to like that.
Right, not at all. I think, not at all. Again, what coaches want, it's somebody that's coachable. And so, and we look at how they treat their parents and their spectators. So let's say their parent goes up and hands them a Gatorade, and they say, well, that's not the right color. I wanted yellow. We see that instead of saying, thank you, next time could you give me maybe an orange one, or, we look and see how they're relating to their parents and see how they're relating to the spectators, because we want coachable athletes that are going to listen and want to get better. And so we definitely look at how they treat folks and then what their attitude, definitely. Do they get extremely, I'm a feisty player. I don't mind a little bit of feistiness, but as long as it's directed in the right way on the golf course, and it doesn't become something that, looks, horrible, and or because they are representing their university. So that they need to be looking and representing the university, and we're going to look for folks that will do that well out there.
Body
and
language,
also that,
probably.
Yeah, body language, exactly. And making sure that when they're out there, and they miss a shot, because we're all going to miss shots, how are they reacting to it? Are they reacting that's going to be a helpful way, or is it going to end up being a harmful way? So we do look at a lot of that. And recruiting at a young age, you have to look at a lot of that even more, because, some people may not reach their talent level till they're a senior, but we may have already filled up our spots by then. So we have to look at, are they coachable, what kind of technique they have at an early age, and, we're having to look at with the potential that they have a lot of times.
Let me ask you another question. Wait 1 second, Ted. I'm on a thought process here. You said you want parents involved. How do you handle the overbearing, pushy parent where the kid just sits there and wants to kill the parent, and you want to kill him as well? How do you handle that?
Right. I think that I want the parents involved in. What I mean by that is making some of those life decisions that, where you go to school is a life decision. It's not just a 4-year commitment. It's a life decision. So making those type things, I think, an 8th and 9th grader could use some help. Now, when you have those parents that, are they're in the 9th grade and they're still, cutting up their apples and putting them into the bag and making sure that they're, eating it on the second hole, and then cutting up their oranges and putting in a bag and that you can have some, a little bit of over the top, on every shot, on the coach at every moment. You still need to let young person, in my opinion, you need to let young person navigate them through life, but let them learn also from their mistakes, because if they're making mistakes and they learn from them, they're just going to get better. So sort of helping them, not make the big errors in life, but just help navigating them, through it, but making sure that they're their own person and making their own decisions at a lot of times too, because they'll learn from those mistakes.
Maybe teaching them a little bit more how to be self-sufficient.
Exactly. Yeah, cutting up your own apple. Exactly. Exactly.
Since Cindy stole my question, I'll have to ask something different, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you, Kim. That answered it well. What I wanted to ask in conjunction with that is obviously you have to find a balancing act with parents and students. I mean, you obviously, as you said earlier on, you want the parents' involvement, but you don't want to be constantly bombarded with emails and saying, well, Jessie didn't, play her best last week, and maybe you need to, and then you suddenly get a suggestion box full of what you should and shouldn't do, and that's a difficult balancing act. But the other thing I wanted to ask you, because you touched on this very briefly about, having them learn from their failures. Let's take an example of a tournament that they're involved in. And let's say they just do horrible, they're dejected, they're just, in a funk. What do you do to get them re-energized and prevent them from going down that slippery slope of, a failure and beating themselves up for the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Right. And, and I think, and we all, in anything that we do, whether it's golf or taking a test or, at your job or whatever it is, I think that we all, we're going to have those days that we're just a little bit off, and we're going to make mistakes. And I think, taking that tournament or taking that round, and really evaluating it. I like to use a lot of, I'll use some PN stuff and some other stuff that I've incorporated that, listening to Cindy and listening to some other colleagues of mine. So I'll analyze it, I'll analyze that round and I'll say, was it a physical issue? Was I in the best shape that I could possibly be in? Did I eat well on the golf course? Was it an equipment issue that caused this? Do I have such a big gap? I kept having 175 yards, and I just don't have 175 yards in my bag. Developing that. Was it technique? Do I need to go work with, my swing coach, my putting coach, or, was it, mental focus or not? I heard you say, earlier was I not in a high state of mind? I mean, being in the right state of mind, the high state of mind. Did I let that drop? And that caused me to start feeling a little bit sorry for myself. And, it's hard to play, and you know this. Cindy's mentioned before, you can't play from sad, but you can play from happy, and you can play from maybe a little bit feisty, but you can't play from sad. So, you're evaluating yourself, stepping back, not being emotionally attached to the round, stepping back and really learning from what you could have done and improved in those areas. And if you can go and improve in those areas, breaking it down to even stats, breaking it down to, how many greens in regulation will I hit, 6 this tournament, and my goal is to get 10 or 11. What could I do better? Hey, that equipment question. I need to get better at 170 yards. Looking at stats and breaking them down and trying to evaluate them. So I think if you step back and get emotionally, separated from those rounds and really think through them, now you have a goal and you've got some things to work on, which is going to help you to stay motivated, to stay in a pathway of improvement. And I think that's the way to continually get better from tournament to tournament and year to year.
Yeah, well said. The other thing, too, that I wanted to ask is obviously I think it's important because you're in a team environment that somebody on that team, usually you're going to look for somebody that has some good leadership qualities that's going to sort of take charge and help bring the other competitors, keep them pumped up. And there's always, I think you want to look for somebody. I mean, it's great for you to do all of that, but I think somebody within their own team. So is that something important that you look for when you're putting a team together? For somebody that's sort of, and it's not necessarily a rising star or somebody that's the best player. It's just somebody that's maybe a good cheerleader within the team. Is that something that's important that you look for as well?
Oh, very, very much so. And I think, you definitely look for that, but it's interesting, and I'm sure both of you have always, you see this. You may see somebody that you think may end up being the leader, but they end up not being the leader. And a leader ends up developing into that leader, and people start to follow, and it's very interesting to see the dynamics of all of that. And I would say that we really use our leaders for example. I want those folks that are working hard, that are yes, they may have a bad round, but they're staying again in that high state of mind to where they're more in an evaluation state instead of putting so much emotion on that round. They're leading in the weight room in the example. They're leading, in the classroom as much as they can. So it's really leading by example, and I would say those have been the best for my young ladies to follow. I've had a lot of folks that that may be an All-American or they may be the best player on the team, but they're not the ones that the young ones are looking up to for whatever reason. The ones that the young ones follow and look up to are the ones that are, successful, individuals as a whole. They seem to enjoy what they're doing. They enjoy life. They work hard. Those are the ones that people follow. And so and those are the folks that, end up being a huge impact because they're such a good face too for the program.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that sometimes a leader has to be developed. Sometimes you're able to, with the luck of the draw, for better lack of words, you're able to find somebody that exudes that. But a lot of times it's something that somebody rises to the challenge within the group, and
exactly.
hopefully the others will follow. Let me just ask one more question, then Cindy, by all means, I don't mean to steal the reins here, but I'm kind of on a thought as well. Kim, when you look back, on your career, and obviously I know you've got many, many more years of great coaching and that, what do you want the students, and everybody knows this, that golf very closely mimics life in general. What do you want your students, 10, 20, 30 years down, regardless of whether they go out on the LPGA tour or stay in golf, When they look back on this experience at the University of Virginia, what do you want them to hopefully take away from that?
Goodness, I have so many thoughts on this. I think, and I think that's probably what keeps me in coaching, and and I think it evolves and changes a lot for me. But, first and foremost, I want them to walk away with a great education. First and foremost, walk away with a great education. So, I'm fortunate to be at the University of Virginia, and it's a high academic school, and so we can offer that, and that's what I want my student athletes to walk away with. Graduate, get a good education. Other than that, I think the skills that you can develop, being on a team, let me see if I can. I have my philosophy. I haven't thought about it and read it in a while, but it's a team, is a group of individuals coming from all different backgrounds that come together with a common interest to end with a common goal. And I think that's what mimics life. On my team, I have 15 people, which is a large team, and they all have come from different backgrounds. They all come from I've got them from East Coast, West Coast. I have one young lady that's from Japan. And so, all of them bring, they're all different, and they're all here working together for a common goal. And that's what mimics life in family and business. And what you can learn is the discipline of 6:30 workouts, getting up in the morning and having to be somewhere at 6:30 because you have a whole team that is accountable for that. And it's funny because the first thing I tell them is when the first time that we have someone that doesn't show up at 6:30, they slept in or late. I always say this mimics life. I mean, what happens if you don't get up at 2:00 in the morning to feed your baby? Something's not going to happen, right? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Or if you have to, for some reason, you have a business call that you have to take and it's early in the morning, or for whatever reason, this is what you're disciplined and learn this while being at a team, while being here. Again, and getting along with a group of individuals that are different. Sometimes they may not be the person you would choose to hang out with or go to the movies with, but being able to be kind and work with them in order to help them get better is, again, going to help the common goal of the team. And if it's a business organization or a family, you're going to be able to help everybody reach their goals. And even habit changing, and I always think this is interesting, and it's just changing a habit potentially. So, you may have come in and never have worked out, and so early morning workouts are really hard for you. It's so funny to witness a first year and a fourth year. So my first years,
right.
Some of them have never worked out. 6:30 is just crazy for them. They've always slept in. Well, usually by their fourth year and fifth year, and when they've graduated, they're calling me at 6:00. Hey, I'm getting ready to go get my workout in, or it's just a habit that they had gotten into. Whereas instead of sleeping in, they got up and they went ahead and got that workout in. So you become where you start to change habits in an athletic and a team world that I think are beneficial, and it allows you to change habits and being disciplined. Okay, I have a 30-minute nap, but that's all I have because I need to go out and practice and get this done so I can go back home and do my schoolwork. And, again, that translates over to the business world. I may have 30 minutes here that I may can do some social media surfing, but, I've got to do my 3 hours here with my business presentation so I can do my meeting at 4, So all of these habits translate over into the world. And so I really enjoy seeing what a first year versus a fourth year does in reference to changing some of those habits and those disciplines, which I think help them later on in life.
Yeah, that's
what you're really
so
talking
true.
about is responsibility and accountability.
Exactly.
And this is life in the real world. So do you, let's say you narrow down a couple of recruits and you may be giving them money with 15
right.
people, there's probably not a lot of money to go around.
Right.
It's got to be divided up, so probably no one's getting full rides, correct? Because you only get 5 full rides?
I get 6 full rides, and actually the way that I do it now, 15's a big number. I mean, usually I would run about 10 to 12, but just with the circumstances within the last 2 years, we do have a big number. But typically it's usually 10 to 12, and that's still a big team. And most golf teams, it's probably 8 to 9. I enjoy a bigger team, and so I've been fortunate enough to be able to have that. But I actually will usually have 4 full scholarship athletes, and those are my big impact players. So those are the players that come with, a really, really nice resume. I mean, for us, I've committed somebody recently. They just played in the U.S. Open, and they're a 2017 graduate. So I mean,
wow.
That young lady, she's going to be on a full scholarship. But saying that, I've also been really fortunate. We've been really fortunate too. The other 2, I always have a little bit of money in the bank, which means I might bring in a recruited walk-on or someone that I think has a lot of potential, and I do that often. And I'll have a little bit of money in the bank. And those, we finished 2 times in the Final Four, and even with our ACC championship last year, 2 of those players on each one of those teams, which have all been different teams, were recruited walk-ons that ended up earning full scholarships by the end of their 4 years. So yes, I mean, it is the money can be different by different coaches, but we do have 6 full scholarships. I usually do 4 full, and then the other 2 are broken up, and I always keep a little money in the bank for those that that improve a lot.
Diamonds in the rough, if you will.
Yes,
which is
my
great.
That's
what happened to me.
I love my diamonds in the rough. I love my diamonds in the rough.
Oh, that's super. Because you know what? You're giving somebody a chance who's willing to put in the effort. And sometimes that person proves to the better players of what hard work does, and it pays off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think, and I always tell the young ladies this, no matter if you're 15th on the team or you're first in the team, you still are just as important for getting those people to work. My 15th player on my team now, she works harder than anybody, and she works harder in the weight room. She just started so much later, But having that person there motivates everybody else. And like you were saying, Cindy, being a little bit of a late bloomer, my late bloomers, again, 2 of them, one's going to turn professional after this year, and 2 of them were in my Final Four. One is almost a professional amateur. She plays in everything and wins everything, So, I mean, it's just really neat to have those young ladies that use the facilities here and what we can offer to improve and get better, and that's exciting.
And what a great experience.
Oh yeah. To be just a member of of an athletic family, and it's a special thing in itself, and to have you've got your own family here of a team, and we're here for you with ups and downs, and just like your family is at home, but you've got your family away from your hometown, and that's just a real special, neat thing to be able to make memories with. And I'm sure, Cindy, some of my best friends, my 2 of them were my teammates, and I may not talk to them for months and months, but I could call them now, and if I needed them, they'd be on the plane in a second, So
absolutely,
that's what's neat. That's what's neat about it.
One more question: what do you do about qualifying?
That's a great one, because I'm probably different than any other coach in the country. So if you ask somebody else, they're going to give you a different answer. I'll have a qualifying round. I look at the qualifying rounds, but I also look at past tournament experience as well, how they do in tournaments. And then I also base it off of, I'll tell you what I see, what course we're going to go to. And I've never, ever had anybody complain. And you would think, like, even I have a young lady, my first qualifier was, we just got done, and I announced the team actually this morning, Cindy, and my person who finished second in the qualifier, she's actually not going to play in the first event, but she will be guaranteed to play in the second event. Why? Because she did, because her scoring average in the past has just been really, really high. And she can always play our home course well. So she plays our home course well, but her scoring average is higher. But I see so much potential in her. So I told her, I said, you're going to play as an individual in this next event, and then we'll put you into the next one, So, a lot
so
of
she does get to play as an individual.
She'll get to play, she'll get to play as an individual. And,
okay,
because
well, that's fair.
Right, and maybe, this was last year, and I don't want to base anything off last year, so maybe she's matured. Maybe we've worked a lot on her course management and her thinking through some things, which is what was causing her high scores. She has so much talent, this young lady. And so if we can just get some of those things nailed down to where we can get that scoring average, then hopefully she'll be in the lineup every time. But it can be hard, Cindy. You've got people that can play really well at home but have a little bit more trouble navigating new golf courses. And then you have the opposite. You can have people that really struggle at home because they have so much going on in their world at home here, with their social and their academics, that they struggle with qualifying. But if I get them away, they go into a completely different mode. So as a coach, it's trying to figure that out. And sometimes you just can't base that off of qualifying. And, the young ladies have always been very receptive to how I do it. I haven't had any complaints, and I think a lot of it's because we've done well. But and I do my best to give everybody a chance to compete at some point as well.
Well, that's fantastic. Kim, I would love, and unfortunately we're out of time, and we've got to wrap things up here. But I certainly enjoyed listening to the conversation. A lot of great insight for hopefully some students out there that might be tuning into the program. Some great advice on how to really become a part of a group like that and be a part of a university experience, but also for parents out there, a little bit of the do's and don'ts. Certainly, coaches like Kim want you to be involved, but at the same time, there's a point in time, too, that you need to step back and let the process happen on its own. Kim, what I would love to do, and I'll let you and Cindy sort of coordinate this. I think this would be fun, and obviously at a time when it's convenient and not conflicting with any schedule. I would love to have you back on and maybe even bring on some of your students and have some conversation. I'd love to have their input and thought on their experiences, so maybe we can do that here sometime in the future. And
that'd be wonderful.
If the schedules, there's something I think that I've always wanted to do, and I think, Cindy, it would be fun. I think it'd be interesting to have the coach on, but also have some of the students on and get some of their feedback of how they've, their journey has taken them so far. And it would be great to have a mix. It'd be great to maybe have a senior on and maybe have a junior on as well, or maybe a combination of both. But I think it would be interesting to get the perspectives of what the experience for the junior has been like, and then what the experience as a senior has been like as well, where the differences, that we discussed earlier. So if that's within the realm of your wheelhorse, let's put that together if we can in the next little while.
That'd be great, and it'd be great experience for as well for those student athletes to be able. It's a good experience for them to have to answer a question under
sure.
with folks listening. So that's great experience for them. I would love that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that, and Cindy, I think that would be something that would be fun, and I think it'd be interesting for the listeners as well to be able to tap into. But having said that,
thanks
Kim,
for having me. I had a wonderful time. Thanks so much for having me.
Well,
thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking time out, and much luck this season, and thank you again, and we look forward to having you back.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was Kim Lewellen, the women's golf coach at the University of Virginia. A great competitor herself and great lady, and sounds like she's got a winning formula there, Cindy, and I know that she's going to do well throughout the season. It sounds like she's had some great seasons already. So, and I think, Cindy, we should try to do that and have her come back. So we'll figure something out in the next upcoming months when it's convenient for their side, and have maybe some of the students come on as well. How about that?
That would be great.
All right. On behalf of Cindy Miller and I, we want to take this opportunity to thank, once again, our special guest, Kim Lewellen, women's golf coach at the University of Virginia. Thank you for coming on and sharing some of your thoughts and insights, and again, much continued success throughout the season. And, of course, equally important, we want to thank all of the listeners from around the world for tuning into the broadcast this morning, and we look forward to having you join us back here next week on the Women of Golf Show. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Cindy, God bless, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.